This is Jeremy Holmes with Ride Solutions. I wanted to offer a couple quick comments this morning on the CarLessBrit experiment, which I hope you are following via the CarLessBrit blog at carlessbrit.tumblr.com, and I'll have that link up at the end of the video. But as River Laker, who is the CarLessBrit, has been undertaking this experiment, he's received comments via the blog, via his Facebook friends, Facebook pages, and I've similarly received comments when I have put out requests for information or ideas to other folks in the alternative transportation industry community, that the whole idea of going carless is no big deal. And a lot of these comments seem to come from folks in other areas than Roanoke, New York City, for example, or Seattle, or Portland, or something like that. And certainly, I don't think it's intended in any ill will, but to them, the idea of going carless is not quite as significant a challenge to the sort of dominant culture as it is here. And so I think I want to emphasize to folks who think that it's not a big deal, that it is a big deal. It's a very big deal in the Roanoke region. Part of that comes from that there really aren't as many accommodations as there might be in some major urban areas, or even certain smaller progressive towns like Portland, for example. You know, we don't have the breadth of public transit that some places have. We don't have all of the pedestrian or bicycle facilities that some other areas have. And so if you're thinking about making a decision how to get around, it's not quite as obvious that it is feasible to do so in ways other than a car. But I think the distinction there is that while the accommodations might not be there necessarily, what River is proving is that that's not necessarily a barrier to getting around without a car, and that in fact it's remarkably easy. You can ride your bike pretty much anywhere, even though there may not necessarily be bike lanes. You can take the trolley, you can take the bus, etc. It might require a little bit of extra planning, but it's certainly doable. So I think the big deal in this situation is not necessarily the courage it takes to get around, but simply the act of challenging the idea that you can't, or challenging the idea that you need a car. I think for the culture in the area, the assumptions in the area, the economics of the area, it's probably certainly a much bigger challenge to think that you can get around without a car. I think the distinction is also important in the sense that while River is choosing to go carless, and he certainly has the option to go back after the experiment is over, though we hope we might be able to talk him out of it, there are a lot of people who don't have an option and they go carless every day, and they certainly get around and can get to many places, most places that they need to. They make perhaps some other decisions that folks that have access to a car might, but they can get around and they live carless. And so I think the big deal there is recognizing all of these folks and all of the decisions that they make, and the ability they have to get around with some alternative, more sustainable modes. So it's a big deal. And keep up with carless, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.